It says, as a way of associating themselves with the immigrant new culture of the colony masters. This corrupt version of the English word Hebrew remained unnoted or was deliberately allowed to remain unchanged even when noticed by the British authorities, so as to serve as a mark of derogatory distinction between European Hebrews who are mostly white and the Nigerian Hebrews who are mostly black.
European Hebrew, now Esau, he is a Hebrew, he's a Hebrew Edomite, but he ain't no Hebrew Israelite. Just show him that, that's it on that. Okay.
It says, henceforth all the early history works of the books of the Ibos bore the corruption version of Hebrew, that is Hebo, or Ibo.
Right. Show him the highlighted part. You know, make sure you let him know what book you're reading now.
God.
When I was talking about them Arabs had a part in the transatlantic slave trade, I'm going to have this brother go into this, read this book, unless you got something loaded. You can YouTube the Jews and the Arabs were united in the African slave trade. Really, it should be Israelite slave trade, but they got African slave trade. So you can YouTube that. But this is the book to prove that them Arabs had a part in it.
This says, page 1, it was this traffic in blacks from Africa West Coast initiated by the Portuguese in 1441 that provided the labor that fueled the rapid economic development of Brazil and the old American South. It has made possible the growth of the plantations in Jamaica, Barbados, Hispaniola, and St. Lucia, and the other islands in the Caribbean where sugar fortunes grew. Competition among the key actors, notably Portugal, England, France, Spain, and the United Provinces, for a share in the business intensified.
Yeah, and the first slaves come out of Spain in 1517. The bulk of them come out of Africa in 1620.
Countless volumes have been written about the transatlantic trade that resulted in the greatest forced transfer of people from one continent to another.
Yeah, that's talking about the Negroes. Now, the Northern Kingdom, which is Ephraim on down, the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, all those, they had some Arawak. Columbus took some Arawak Indians, which are Israelites, took them back over to Spain. So that was the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. Took them back over to Spain, and then you had some being brought back in 1517. Then you had the bulk of the slaves in 1620. So the natives was really the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, the Northern Kingdom.
It was at such places as Camenda, Shama, Elmina, and Lagos on the dreaded Bight of Benin that captains of slave ships would cast anchors and stand off, waiting weeks, sometimes months, for their full complement of Negroes, or as it was commonly referred to, waiting to be slaves.
All right, and then you had them packed on there like sardines. You know, you had some of them at the bottom of the ships, beating the bottom of the ships to where it'd crack a hole in it to where the ship would sink. You had a lot of rebellions. You had the women killing themselves, going overboard, trying to prevent their children from going into slavery. So it was horrendous, man. Horrific, man.
You know? They were battered for the white men's artifacts. The ships that were waiting ashore for their human cargo had brought an assortment of goods from New England and the West Indies that included clothes, glass beads, knives, brassware, rum, and firearms.
Yeah, that's Joel the 3rd chapter. What's that, Joel the 3rd chapter? Yeah, that's Joel the 3rd chapter.
African human capital was exchanged for Western customer goods.
That's Joel the 3rd chapter, right there on the spot, man.
Actually, these were the items in great demand by local chiefs.
Yeah, that's Joel, man, 3rd chapter.
Joel 3:3, and they cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon?
Yeah, that's the Canaanites. And if I ain't mistaken, the Canaanites, they in Somalia today, if I ain't mistaken. You know, go ahead.
It says, in all the coast of Palestine will ye render.
That's them Arab, Palestine and Arab. Go ahead.
Will ye render me recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head?
So they were jealous of us, we being the chosen people, man. They wanted to get us away from that land over there in Israel. Plus, it was part of the prophecy. So it happened, man. We read the records in that book. We read the records in that book, and then we're going into the Bible, linking it up, showing you that's part of history, man. And our history is in the scriptures.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried unto your temples my goodly pleasant things.
Yeah, them Arabs got all that. Edomites and Arabs got all that. Them Africans don't got that. They in mud huts. Go ahead.
Verse 6, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
Grecians is talking about the so-called white man. That's who controlling the transatlantic slave trade. And that's not, and when you look it up, you'll go into it and talking about that Javon, which is Japhet, or one some more than the Tonganese. But during the time of Alexander and on up, they began to push people out of their, nations out of their lands. And they took on that name, Grecian. So that's why we able to link it up with the scriptures and let you know that's a so-called white man. That's part of prophecy. That's why you got to understand the history, and the spirit not on you is a stumbling block to you.
It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their borders.
So that's what happened to us. We was on the west coast of Africa, down there in Angola, and we were moved far from our borders, which was Jerusalem. You see? And we ended up over here. You know? That's how we ended up over here, transatlantic slave trade. And what we was before we came over here, over in northern parts of Africa, southern west coast of Africa, and we was brought over here, and we was all up in Europe, man. You know, give me Job 24 and 2 to edify that about how Esau moved people out of their land and stuff. Job 24 and 2.
Job 24 and 2. Some removed the landmarks. They violently took away flocks and fed thereof. They drive away the asses of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together.
So there you go, right there. Esau coming into power and pushing people out of their lands and destroying them and taking what don't belong to him. Okay? So that's how we know through the spirit that that's talking about the so-called white man, which is Esau. Go back to the highlight part.
Back in page 3, it says,
what's the name of that book? Slave trade.
Slavery in the Arab world. Back in the same book. Yeah. It says, what King John had in mind was Africa's fabled gold. Elmina, located along Ghana's coast, proved no disappointment. For a while, yield the unexpected bonanza.
So they knew that the Israelites. They knew that the Israelites was in them places, in Nigeria and Ghana and places like that, man. They knew that. They knew, man. That's why you got that's why you had the Israelites that come out of Angola was singing Kumbaya. You see, that's Hebrew, man. The Israelites that came out of Angola, man. That's Hebrew. And I think that they was in slavery down there in North Carolina, somewhere in that area, North Carolina or Louisiana.
God, it says, trade in gold and ivory, the principal exports from Elmina in the early days, soon gave way to traffic in slaves. During the latter part of the 16th century, transatlantic slave trade rapidly escalated, supplying labor for the Portuguese plantations and mines in Brazil and to the Spanish plantations in Caribbean. Those who survived the approximately 12-week trip across the storm-swept Atlantic were again sold to toil forever as slaves in the plantations of the sugar islands that dotted the Caribbean or in the cotton fields of the southern states of the United States.
That was Benjamin, man. That was Benjamin over there.
Which, it says, of the United States where the system of slavery held sway. You want to keep going?
Yeah, I like it.
What kind do you want?
It says, yet countries before the first ship flying a flag of European countries slipped out from one of the numerous inlets along Africa's west coast, laden with human cargo and people of North Africa and Arabia and the Persian Gulf, were forcibly transferring large numbers of blacks down the Nile to Egypt.
See that? So that's the Arabs, man. They had a part in it, man. They had a part in it.
And across the network of the vast Saharan trade routes from West and Central Africa to the countries of Maghreb. The decades after the last slave ship sailed westward to the Americas and the West Indies, where slavery had been abolished by the early 1870s, Arabs' housed were furtively moving out Zanzibar, Mombasa, and other East African ports, following the familiar Indian Ocean routes.
So you had Israelites being sold on the east coast of Africa, in Zanzibar, man. You see?
For the consignment of ebony, the masters of these vast Leighton rigging ships were more metaphorically packed like sardine-like fashion, with men, women, children maneuvered skillfully in invading the small force of the British slopes, charged with the impossible mission of interdicting this illicit traffic. The blacks caught up in the trade were fated to be sold in the slave marts of Arabia, the Persian Gulf, the Ottoman Empire, and India.
You got Israelites scattered all over, man. Even like I always say, man. Sometimes I mention about them Pakistanis, man. Pakistan. You got a lot of East Indians in Pakistan. Elam, that's in Pakistan. When you go into the history and when you look it up, you got India, which was the ones who basically founded Pakistan. So you got our people scattered everywhere, man. You got them everywhere, man. And that's why I always say Pakistan gonna light America up, because if Pakistan got them nukes, that's Elam, man. That's Elam. You know? But they might be allied with America now. But you better read Obadiah, the book of Obadiah.
Yeah.
Better read that.
It says, relatively little have been written about the facet of the slave trade. Although the number of the blacks who fell victim to Muslim slave traders can never be determined, there is a little doubt that the figures ran to several million over the centuries, and the traffic was carried on.
See that? So them Arabs had a hand in the transatlantic slave trade.
Keep going.
Yeah, I like it.
Make sure you watch it. Cut off and know where it started. It says the introduction of the clove culture of Zanzibar by Armenian Arabs in the part of the 19th century transformed the islands into a major import